Welcome to another Sunday night episode of Taking It to the Nub. I'm your host, Boston Jimmie, and tonight I've got a repeat guest. I haven't had this guest on the show in a few years. We're going to catch up and see where things are rolling. You know him as Dr. Gaby Kafie from Kafie 1901 Cigars, a man who's been around the industry for quite a bit, knows a lot about what's going on, and also a founding member of the Boutique Cigar Association. We'll get into some of that too. We'll catch up on where we are with the BCA. But before that, as always, we need to run a fast advertising to pay for this show because it's always a little easier when you get some sponsorship. And we're going to let that roll, and then we'll be right back.
Brought to you by Casa Cuevas Cigars. In the 19th century, Juan Cuevas, Spanish immigrant from Santander, began what was to be a family business which now spans 4 generations. Like others fortunate enough to live and work in Pinar del Rio province of Cuba, Juan commenced cultivating tobacco, turning it into a successful business. Years later, in the Ciabo Valley of the Dominican Republic, Luis Cuevas Sr., Juan Jr.'s son, carried on the family tradition of handcrafting fine cigars in the family's cigar factory, Tabacalera Las Lavas. Today, Luis Sr. is joined by his son Luis Jr. in the manufacturing and sale of premium long filler cigars. So check out Casa Cuevas Cigars at www.casacuevascigars.com and on their Instagram and Facebook channels.
Catelli Cigars is back. The past few years brought many questions and changes to the cigar industry. In the wake of all uncertainty, Catelli Cigars decided to take a break and try their hand in the retail side of cigars. With 2 shops under their belt, first Riverside Cigar Bar, and now the Catelli Cigar Lounge in Vero Beach, Florida, they are now more educated in the retail and the wholesale sides of the cigar business. During this time, they received many inquiries about their cigars returning to the market. Making the difficult decision to take a break from their brand was eased, knowing that when the time was right, Catelli would be back, and now they are. Catelli is excited to bring their first release, the Catelli Box Air, back to market. The Box Air, a rich box-pressed San Andreas Mexican Maduro with a Nicaraguan binder and filler, come in Box Air's 3 original sizes, Robusto, Toro, and Gordo. You can check out Catelli Cigars at catellicigars.com. And also check out their Facebook and Instagram pages.
Okay, let's bring back Gaby. Dr. Kafie, how are you today on this beautiful first day of Daylight Savings Sunday? It's nice. It's still light out, and we'll be like that for about another hour.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for having me on, Jimmie. It's a pleasure. It's been a while, but it's always a good time. The last time was with the board. Yeah, with the board. There's always some drama going on in the industry that we need to talk about. But now
this is a small industry. As large as, when we talk about the billions of dollars in cigars, it's still small, it's made up of all these small little industry components, whether it's the person that owns a factory, a small factory, a person that
Yes.
owns a shop, a person that owns a brand that uses somebody else's factory, or a guy like me
Yes.
or like me. We're just small people that are all
Yeah.
spokes in this wheel to generate the revenues so that the farmers can grow this beautiful leaf,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Correct.
So,
It's not like they grow great tobacco all over the world. It's very limited. You look at all these countries in Central America, the Dominican Republic, even South America. It's very difficult to find flat land. It's so mountainous everywhere, right? It's full of coffee. It's full of plantain, cocoa. There's
but
people don't
don't you have to
realize.
rotate some of that in anyway? You don't completely use the same finca over and over,
So
right? Don't you like put different crops in there once in a while?
so the everything I just talked about, right? That's up on the mountains, 4 or 5 feet elevation. On the flat land, you do have to rotate the crops because you don't want to deplete the nutrients. You want to
Right.
reincorporate iron, magnesium, different things. Like if you plant beans, Central America, beans is a staple food, kind of like rice or beans is what to the U.S. Mac and cheese, let's call it.
Mac and cheese. It's like
Yeah,
it's
it's
like pasta.
exactly. Well, you're Italian. I can respect that. So usually staple foods, sweet potatoes, boniatos, they call them, beans. I've seen corn, which is it's incredible. But the corn is used on the sides of the plantations
For
because
the bugs.
they grow tall and they keep the wind from.
And it keeps the bugs off the plant because the bugs eat the corn. Did you know
Incredible.
that?
You know what? No, I did not. I did
I
not know
learned
that.
that from Artista down in Dominican because I saw the corn and I asked him what the purpose of the corn was. He says the bugs will go after the corn because it's sweeter and it keeps them
Incredible.
off the plant. If they have nothing else, they go for the plant.
I just learned something new after 12 years. Look at that.
It's amazing.
Well,
And the agricultural science behind all of this, and you've seen it, you're in the coffee business too, so you know
yeah,
this. Um, when you have to you rotate some crops, let's say on the ground, and then you come back and you plant your tobacco, there's a certain soil content of magnesium, of potassium, and there's a percentages that have to be, and you're controlling that with your fertilizer and other things, right?
correct.
And do you get that to a point in your field where it's rather precise as to the percentages, and you say that's good? Because if you get too much
So,
magnesium, maybe you're going to get too much metallic in your cigar.
or it's not just about flavor. I'm not a farmer. I'm not gonna uh, basically act like I know the full science of tobacco farming. But the things that I've learned is that you can have issues with mold. If it,
Uh-huh.
the old days where the Corojo plantations in Cuba would get blue mold were attributed to the pH of the soil being off. So you're absolutely right. It does affect the crop, the health of the crop. I think what Plasencia is doing in Nicaragua with just developing his own. He's a cattle farmer as well. People don't know, but
Oh yeah.
manure is gold in the tobacco business. It's actually the ideal fertilizer for anything in farming.
It's great stuff.
It is good stuff, and that's why they're able to. They developed a line of cigars and they applied the name organic to it because there's no artificial anything. And it's funny in our family we have people that are in the fertilizer business and they supply the farmers. And a friend of mine, the flip side of that coin is Christian Eiroa had an uncle named Generoso, may he rest in peace, who was in the pesticide business for the tobacco industry. So we've seen a little bit of everything, and balance is the key. Balance is the key to a good crop.
And I would think that It's not just to a good crop, but it's how you run your business. Um, we were talking pre-show, and it's a good time to, I guess, segue into it, where this industry is just made up of a whole bunch of small people. Okay. And
Yes,
yeah, we got
yes,
some big players, but even the big players aren't
yeah,
like the guys that own Ford Motor Company and stuff like that, right? I mean, these are small to medium-sized companies
correct.
collectively doing, all together billions of dollars in business, but the contribution of all goes into it. And I feel that as we go forward in time now, um, there is great demand on the part of the consumer, major part of
Yes,
this spoke in the wheel, that is looking at pricing going, whoa, things are getting a little expensive. Then they get into a number of
yes,
popular online sites that have been able to sell cigars at extremely discounted prices that the local brick and mortar can't
yes.
compete to because they got so much overhead. There's no way they can get to that number. And what is your thoughts on how that affects going forward
So
the
I'm
beauty
going
of
to
this
share,
business,
yeah,
the charm of this business, which was the cigar
yeah.
shop?
So I'm going to share some personal family business happenings. My father's generation, 30 years ago, and this is something that I really want the brick and mortar cigar shop owner to think about. So why do the guys online sell for lower amounts? They have purchasing power. If XYZ company calls, a distribution or a factory and says, hey, we'd like to place an order for 500 boxes and we'd like a 20% discount, that deal is most likely going to happen. And 20% discount on wholesale is equals to 40% discount on retail. All of a sudden, you're looking at the prices online, it's $4 or $5 cheaper per cigar. It's all about purchasing power. So my father he owned a beautiful, it was called House of Liquors in California. It was 4,000 square foot. One half of the building was wine and liquor. The other half was beer, bourbon, and rum, everything. You imagine 4,000 square feet. It was like the first total wine in the United States back in 85 to 90, right?
Oh yeah.
And he was getting they were crushing him. The supermarkets, Costco just started. They got a liquor license, and they were crushing him on pricing. So he said, you know what? We're going to go out of business at this rate, which is what every small mom and pop brick and mortar shop is saying in the cigar business nowadays. What the hell? How can we compete against this, right? So my father decided to put together a group of buyers. He brought together 150 liquor stores, Jimmie. Imagine, my father had the vision. Let's bring together 150 liquor stores, small players. Let's buy in bulk.
Have the buying power to do that.
Exactly. So my father, he was blessed to have a huge building, but the building was on about almost 3/4 of an acre, 25 to 28 parking spaces in the front. I remember when the big trucks would come and back up and they'd be unloading 40-foot containers of liquor, and they would lay it on they would lay it all out in the parking lot. And I remember we would wake up early, my brother and I. This is what we would do to make a little extra money, right? We'd wake up early and show up the day the deliveries took place because every liquor store owner was showing up to pick up their purchase.
So you
And
had to
with
sort it out and get everything put in place for them to
bingo. So
collect their goods.
within 24 hours of the main delivery arriving, everything was gone. And
So
they were negotiating prices equal to the big grocery store chains and Costco at the time. So why is it so hard today? I asked myself, how many cigar shops are there in Florida?
oh man, hundreds,
500?
hundreds.
Okay. So why is it so difficult to organize, let's say 50 retailers to come together? And let's say if they called my company and they said, "Hey, Dr. Kafie, we've got 50 retailers here. We want to carry your product." And they have a negotiator to come and speak to our national sales director. That would change the game, wouldn't it?
And then we can call it the retail tobacco. Oh, we already did that once.
uh, but
I'm sorry, I
I
had to
think
go there with that one because
that's great.
yeah, the retailers, I think, have gotten got has be have begun to have a bad end of this whole stick in this game, right? Because like the brick and mortars, especially, right? They're struggling to survive some of them
Do you
and
think
doing
the
the best they can.
retailers? I visit shops. I talk to a lot of shops, and the retailers live in their own little isolated world because in our industry, I look forward to making friendships with other cigar makers. The BCA, we got the group, the camaraderie. People have
Retailers
come.
that play together here in town, they go to each other's shops
Yeah,
and
but it
hang
would be
out.
nice to see them. Like New Hampshire has a cigar retailers association. I think it's time Florida developed one.
So maybe have a state
Uh-huh.
retailer association, and that state retailer or city retailer, if you're big state, big cities, right, have city level kind of thing where they can buy and they can have buying power, collective buying power, okay, to make the purchases. Right. And of course, the thing with that is that some retailers, let's say I had a shop and, people in my shop, they just love buying Drew Estate. And
Mhm.
you have a shop and people there just love buying Placencia. They buy Drew Estate, but they don't buy, as much. They buy more Placencia. All
Yeah,
right. Now you want to get a deal on all of this. You got to go to each individual. Remember, you got to go to each individual brand,
yeah, I know.
negotiate pricing, and you
Terrible.
have to the point of it can't be the number that just shop A has. You got to add them
Yeah,
all together, and then you almost have to put a ceiling or something on there to say if we reach this target goal, you give us these discounts. Okay, what
it's the cigar. This is a very old but
kind of
yet
bird is
young
that in your
industry.
backyard?
I've got a what
What bird is that behind you?
on the right side or left?
Right
Oh,
behind you.
those are peacocks.
You have peacocks in your yard? There you go. Look at that.
Yeah, we do. They like cigars actually.
Those are wild. Those are the wild peacocks.
Yeah,
They just show up at your place.
they're they're fantastic, Jimmie, until they take a dump on your car. Okay.
I heard the males can be kind of aggressive.
It's funny. Maybe we'll get a little show. So you see the glass right here.
Uh-huh.
So since there's a little bit of tint, there's a reflection. So if he stands in front of it, he will begin to fight the glass.
Oh, fight himself in the glass.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hilarious.
He's like those Japanese beta fish. You know those
Sorry
the Japanese betas. You put a mirror in front of them, they flare up.
about that. I had to.
That's a
Oh.
great. I'll tell you what, man. They came at the perfect time. That's awesome. You ever watch a movie or read a book called God? It's sorry to go on a tangent, but
I've never heard of that book.
no. Let me
That's
tell you
a
the.
great name for a book. God, sorry, I'm going on a tangent.
No. You're good. I just had a total.
Yeah, an old man moment. Trust me, I get
It
them
it
all.
wasn't a beautiful mind. It was. I'll remember it later. I'll bring it up. But I
Anyway,
want
so
to
we get
go.
into this whole brick and mortar stuff, and yeah, I think there has to be a model of that so that people can execute to it and get better discounts through volume buying through an association, you know. But it can't be the same volume that, just because you buy brand A, I buy brand A, he buys brand
Yeah.
A. they're selling Grand A to three of us already. All of a sudden, because the three of us are buying it through one that you want discount, they're gonna look at that and be like, "But I'm already selling it to you." You have to
Right.
hit bigger numbers, you know, and
One of the
that's gonna be.
things,
This is the problem with this industry of how that's gonna work.
right. Well, one of the things I've been thinking about, because look, it's my wife and I, kids are getting bigger. We're not a big company. Our reach is limited. Quality customer service and building the right accounts is very limited when you're just two people. But I thought about, okay, what can we do to make time uh, maximize our time? Let's say I fly to Atlanta. Let's use this as an example. Being a doctor, right? I don't practice any longer, but they invited me to so many dinners, all the pharmaceutical companies, that I started looking at their model and I'm like, this is very interesting, right? They come into town, they pick a restaurant like Ruth Chris's or Smith and Walensky, and they shoot you an email to, you and your spouse are invited to have dinner. Let's say Pfizer, bad example. I don't know if you like them or not, but Pfizer invites us to dinner. Now you got a room with 40 people listening, and you do a 1 hour presentation and hand out informational. Like, why can't Gaby Kafie fly into a city, invite 10 retailers and their spouses in the evening after they're closed, take them out to dinner, and just make things efficient? I think that's where our industry needs to go, in that direction. The traveling salesman is what built this company. Let me
Oh
rephrase.
yeah.
The traveling salesman built this industry. And of all the industries, it's still dependent on the traveling salesman. The good ones, not the bad ones. You
There's
get a
always
lot
good
of,
and bad in traveling salesmen, but you're right. The good ones know how to move the product. Okay. And they're a major spoke in this wheel.
they are correct. Now, one thing that I've identified that, um, so big companies have the ability to condition retailers to what they want to do, right? Oh, what do I mean by that? All right, big company. Let's say you're at the PCA trade show. You're the rep for that territory's there. Retailer comes in, orders the new cigars that are, that season, and places his minimum order of $5,000. And while they're sitting there placing the order, they're actually picking a date for the event. This is how big companies operate, a cut and light. So it's wonderful. The product arrives. The sales rep is in the store to open the box and to put the product on the shelf and make sure it looks beautiful, right? I mean, think about the customer service that big companies are providing. And on top of that, that Friday, they bring all the swag, all the goodies, chicken wings, you name it, and they're doing a big event. So the retailer now enjoys having the luxury of sitting at the register while the company sells the product that he just got. So now this is the really terrible part. Gaby Kafie walks in, right? Hey, we get along. They love the cigar. Everything's great. They place an order. It arrives. I'm home. And they're like, when are you coming back to do an event? So the retailer's got to be very careful, because a good retailer should want to control the momentum of their own sales. Don't
Uh-huh.
let Does you know what I mean, Jimmie? Don't let outsiders control the momentum of your business. That's why you have retailers like I don't know if I should start naming some of them. I won't.
No, but
But
what you mean, you're bringing up a good point, and this industry is one of the few industries where if you own a shop, you buy the product, you want the rep to come in, you want the rep to do the event, you want the rep to sell. So get all of that into the consumer's mouth so that they can be the judge if they like it. But meanwhile, you sold a bunch of them. Everybody sold a bunch. Everybody made a bunch of money. Now, if the
yeah,
cigar is a rock solid cigar, you're
yeah,
gonna probably be ordering more because people are gonna want them. And if they're not, well, you're gonna probably sell out and you're not gonna sell anymore.
yeah. And then so what's happened is, oh my God, you're this conversation is gravy, and I'll tell you why. You just highlighted something. So if the cigar is great, it's going to sell like a rock star. If it's not, well, I truly believe that's why this industry has become saturated with new products.
Yeah.
Because all you got to do is sell it once, and then every 6 months you sell it once. You sell it once, sell it once. Oh my God, remember that cigar? It was great. Oh yeah, I didn't like that one, but yeah, we can't get any more. It's so the name of the game when you can't make a phenomenal product.
500 boxes, a limited edition. Boom. It's in,
Bingo.
it's out, it's no more.
Yeah, that's you can do that all day long,
You can
all
do
day
that all
long.
day long, so long as those
Yeah,
limited editions don't continue to skip beats. All right. If they become something where the consumer says, okay, the first one I liked, the second, the third, and the fourth just weren't any good, they probably not going back to those. So you still have to be on top of your game to a
yeah,
level
yeah,
that the cigar still has to speak for itself. And if it doesn't, I can give a pass to a company that produces a new blend, whether it's an LE or a production, and say, you know what, that just isn't what I know you for. And okay,
excellent. Okay,
it is what it is. The tobacco, the idea, the blend, it just didn't work for whatever reason. But if you repeat that sin the next time and another time, you're not going to be in this
yeah,
business very
that's
long.
it. You know what? I think I love that this is. I'm going to give you an example. Our company, we've been in business 12 years now. It's
Oh, good time.
incredible. We have five of our premium cigar blends on the market. Five.
The Maduro.
The Maduro. Very simple. It's a very exotic blends, but very simple names. Kafie 1901 Maduro. And we've tried to do short runs. We've tried, it all sells. I'm going to be honest with you. People buy from people they like. And
Yeah.
if the product backs, the relationship, they keep with you. But really good factories that have really well aged tobacco, they're not very reactive, Jimmie. You can't, like, if I went to La Aurora right now, and that is our factory, we're very blessed to be with them, and I wanted to release a new blend every 3 months, they would kick me in the ass and get rid of me. So they'd be like, go somewhere else.
Manny ain't gonna like
And
that.
so what happens is that some guys have very intelligent is that they realize that the staple factories, I call them staple. They're a staple to the industry. You can name them. So one guy will, oh, I'm going to do this blend here. I'll make that blend there, and then they're able to get 2-3 blends a year because they're working. In essence, they're only producing one blend every 2 years at a factory. But when you stagger them correctly, now you have a portfolio that's more attention grabbing. But that is so much work, Jimmie. That is so much work.
Oh, yes, it is.
It is a lot of work. I'm all in. I've been all in since day one.
It's a
And
lot of travel to a lot of different countries, a lot of different provinces to keep
yeah,
that rolling, to be on top of the logistics of everything that has to happen. Because I'm speaking to the choir here, right? If you're not there, you can put so much trust in the factory, but you got to
yeah,
be there overseeing it once in a while. You got to see what's going. You got to grab a couple of those cigars and
yeah,
smoke them right there and say, "Yep, this is still what I expected." Or, "Ooh,
yeah.
what happened to this?" Can I see the
Correct,
leaf you're
correct.
using? What the heck?
Well,
What
it's
happened
not
here?
just the leaf is one. Uh,
The rollers, the Pacheros,
I'm even going to criticize the packaging.
packaging.
The boxes, the cellophane, the stickers. Like we shipped out one batch of cigars, and retailers were calling me that the QR code wasn't scanning on the cigars.
Ooh.
So yeah, so little things that you would never think of, all of a sudden you're like,
But that
whoa,
becomes a quality check that you need to do
Correct.
Right? So
Back
when you
at
get
the
that
factory.
first batch of sticker, you go, okay, let me shoot this with my camera. Oops, it doesn't work, guys. What'd you do? And you reject them. You say, that's not what we ordered.
It's really
Because you have
fascinating.
because rejection in business to like subcontractors helps them grow and produce quality because otherwise they just produce, they'll produce slop. If I have a plumber, right, and a plumber comes to my house and does shoddy workmanship, and I don't call him out on it,
Yeah, it's over. Yeah,
he's going to do shoddy workmanship. If I call him
yeah.
out on it, he's going to have to redo it at his expense, and I'm not going to pay it. Look, that ain't right. It ain't the code. You didn't do it right. Redo it, and I ain't paying you for it.
So we've had episodes where a customer will tell us, "Hey, I don't know what's wrong, but the wrapper just it keeps cracking."
Oh,
And maybe we shipped in the winter, maybe something happened. We don't get into this debate. Like I try to ask questions. Where are you storing them? How's the humidification? Send me a picture of where they are in the humidor. And then I'll find out that this guy's it's 50 degrees out. He's in his truck. He's got the window open. He's smoking and and the poor cigar's like screaming, help, you know. So
yeah,
I'll tell
it's
them,
also
look,
where it cracks, right? If it cracks,
yeah,
there's a crack at the bottom of the foot, or is it cracking in the middle because the leaf is expanding and the
yeah,
binder's not
correct.
holding it together and it cracks through the wrapper? Because that bind, people don't realize the binder is a binder for a reason. It keeps that because when you fire up that cigar, and I learned this dramatically from Luigi Lucenti from the Baller cigar cutter and all of that, and
Okay,
the humidimeter. I he explained. He goes,
beautiful.
with the humidimeter, he said, I want you to do an experiment. And he says, I want you to get a cigar. I want you to stab the foot and the head and get the reading. Okay, so it's like, let's say it's 68% humidity on his
Yeah,
meter. Okay,
it's
whatever.
it'll be about 5% off from the
Now,
right.
no, no, no. Now what he says is now light the cigar up. Take a
Okay,
few puffs on the cigar. Okay. Stab the middle of the cigar now. It's like 80+% humidity.
wow,
Okay?
it's
Because all the water molecules, the heat
yes,
activates the water molecules and you start and it starts saturating the leaf inside. So the leaf now starts getting more moisture, which can cause a burn issue if you don't understand
yeah,
that. Okay. And it expands, right? Because the leaf is at a certain humidity level, suddenly it expands. And if enough of them expand, then the binder isn't strong enough to hold it, it's going to pop through. And the wrapper is usually super thin and it just
yeah.
cracks. And I've had
It's
that
always
in the
it's
middle of a
always a
cigar.
Connecticut wrapper, Sumatra wrapper. It's always a thinner
Mm-hmm.
wrapper. That's why
Cameroon.
everyone loves. That's why you see there's a trend now with going with thick, dark, heavy, oily wrappers, and the trend is that I personally feel that a lot of people, they're puffing on their cigar, but they don't really know how to enjoy or savor or get the most out of the blend.
Mhm.
If you talk to somebody about retrohaling, they kind of think you're inhaling. They really look at it like, there you go, Mr. Choo Choo right there. I love that. You got to retrohale. It's something that's if you're going to invest in this luxury item and you're missing out on 70% of the ride, I think.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 70% to be.
Think of it this way. Think of it as I tell people it's wine and cigars, even whiskey and cigars are very similar in the sense of the digestive, right? So when you drink a glass of wine or a glass of whiskey, one of the things you do is you smell it, right?
Correct.
And then as you drink it,
Mm-hmm.
you're breathing through your nose as you're
Yes, yes,
swishing that around in your mouth.
exactly.
And the aroma is going out through your olfactory, out through your nose. That's giving you the whole bouquet
Mm-hmm.
of the whiskey, of the wine, of the cigar. You're getting the full bouquet. You're correct. If you're not retrohale, you shouldn't retrohale on every
A lot.
puff,
Yeah. Just
but
yes.
every 3 to 5 times on a Toro is max for me, and
Hmm.
it just now you start picking up these notes and you get that proper bouquet. What the blender wanted you to get because he knows he's
Correct.
like
Correct.
he's
Yes.
doing it.
I've been in many sessions blending cigars in two different countries with, let's say, on average, La Aurora has a team of about 8 tasters. So after a cigar is blended and you make several variations of it, it goes into a tasting room where they have a flavor profile and everybody's taking notes. And every person in that room is retrohaling.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you about what the consumer is missing out on? And they shouldn't be afraid. They really shouldn't. It's like there's nothing to be afraid about. There's 8 million olfactory nerve endings that you're now engaging in the experience of this. And I love that you call it a bouquet because that's what I call it as well. It's a blend. It's a very sophisticated cigar. Now, uh, cheap bundles. Let's call them what they are. We have value bundles. They have great tobacco, but they're much more affordable. And 90% of the bundles that you'll smoke that are under $4 or $5 a cigar, they have zero fortaleza, strength in the retro, zero, just a muted cigar. So what did we do? We came out and we made a bundled cigar that gives you a similar retro experience as a premium cigar. And once people, the guys that retro love our bundles. The guys that don't really know what they're smoking. So this should be taken as a learning experience. In 1994, it's funny when I was in medical school, Jimmie. I was doing rounds through Miami, going from Cedars Hospital to Mount Sinai, and then I was living in Doral. And on my way home or the way to the hospital, Christian Eidoa's warehouse was in the middle. So if I ever got out of work early, I'd go hit Christian's office, right? I was 21. I'm 53 now, so you can imagine. 21, 22 years old, doing my thing. I'd go visit Christian. He'd be there. And it was the same crew. Salim Hanono, it was Carlos Escalona, Dylan Austin, who went to work for Davidoff, the crew. We were all kids. I'd come in there. Christian was we're the same age. And I remember Christian pulled out a cigar back then that they called the 1118 because of the shape, but it was
Yeah,
the
because it was
1118. Yeah.
yeah.
But that's Christian's mother's birthday, November 18th. That's why they named it 1118. And he goes, hey, try this. He goes, tell me what you think. We're 21 years old. We're sitting there. And he's watching me smoke the cigar. And he goes, what are you doing? I said, what? I said, retrohale. He's shouting at me. Retrohale, what are you doing? I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, man. He goes, come here, do this. And he did a little bump, okay? Little, he goes, don't inhale, just give it, go from your mouth, and just give it a little bump out the nose. Christian was the one that taught me how to retrohale.
You know what I
And
tell people to retrohale? Don't even use the cigar because they don't understand. As soon as they put the smoke in, they want to digest it. I said, just breathe in air. Go like this. And then blow the air through your nose. Do that
perfect,
about 5, 6 times. Just keep
perfect.
understand that what you're doing. You're closing this, you're opening that,
Yes,
and you're pushing it out. Now and then do that little puff, and now do
yes,
it with smoking. Put the smoke in your mouth,
yes.
press it to your cheeks, keep it in your mouth, exhale. And then the third part of that, which a lot of people don't do, is lick your cheeks and your gums
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
breathe in a little air. exhale the air, and taste. The flavor molecules get
Yes.
activated when you do that, and you'll
Listen,
taste even more because you got to pop them now. Those flavonoids start going crazy.
so the cigar that you're having now is a blend that contains very beautiful tobaccos. Um, in the inside, it has Dominican Andullo, which is
Mm.
very hard to source. There's not a lot of it out there. And La Aurora does get the best quality Andullo in the Dominican Republic. That's a 500-year-old fermentation method for tobacco.
Mm.
We've got some Pennsylvania broadleaf in the filler of that cigar. The beauty is that we have a double binder of African Cameroon from the Mirafel family on that cigar.
Oh,
And then
really?
yeah, it's topped off by a beautiful Nicaraguan Habano wrapper, which just brings it all together. Now, the Cameroon tames, it really does tame the filler tobaccos from being too overpowering. This is a cigar that you retrohale just a little. It's full of flavor. It's very forward in the palate. It's just
Very, very dark chocolatey right here.
it. That's the Andullo working.
Just-
Yeah,
mm.
yeah.
And there's
And I'm
this
having
underlying sweetness that's coming in the background that I got from the very beginning, and it just kind of lays in there.
so this is every blend I work on is something that I don't want to make something that somebody else has. I'm not trying to compete with anybody else. I want to create stuff that's really rare and unique and doesn't really exist in the market. You know, there is one exception, and I'll say that our Connecticut blend
Uh-huh.
is the main difference between this and most Connecticut cigars on the market is that all the tobaccos in here are 5 years aged. And you just get a very elegant cigar, and it's priced. The Toro's priced around 10.50 in the U.S., 10 to 10.50 depending on the state. It can go up as high as 14 in New York, but
Yeah.
it's a great cigar. It's got a nice champagne floral because of the Dominican fillers. It's just a great cigar. But we really try to. There's so many brands on the market, 1,500 plus brands. The other day I
1,500 new
heard,
stuff every year, whether it's
yeah,
new blends or brand extensions.
I heard yesterday somebody in the industry came up to me. We were at Neptune Cigars grand opening, a beautiful
Yeah, you
store.
told me you were going to that yesterday.
And another cigar maker says to me, goes, "You think there's too many brands on the market?" I said, I think that's a pretty obvious statement. And he goes, "Do you think there's too many blends?" I go, "Look at this store. It's look, it's the largest walk-in humidor that I've ever seen in Florida." So, but
Got to go
she
to Ryan
carries.
Gallimore's place. You want to see walk-in humidors.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Go
I'm
check out
sure.
his place in Clearwater, man. It's
Congratulations to them. I appreciate the invitation. I didn't have the ability to get up there. I would have loved to have gone.
ever in the area, just call
Yeah,
him,
I
just stop
will.
in. He'll give you a tour. He'll show
But
you
you know
what he's
what's
got.
happening? I think that there's smart money in this industry that understands if you run a good business, you'll do well. And there's the painful thing that I see in the boutique segment and also in the brick and mortar segment is when somebody's getting into the business with very little money and they're trying to multitask too much and they still have a main job. So
Yeah, they got their
they're
main 40, their
yeah.
regular job, right?
So and I'm nobody to criticize or to, but that those are the guys that are really feeling a lot of pain because you have retailers like Old Virginia Tobacco is a great store because 12 years ago I walked into that store, and 12 years ago when I walked in, they had their shit together, and 12 years later they're even more professional. The owners phenomenal. They get very competitive. if you run a good business in this industry, the margins are there so that you can hire people and especially in the brick and mortar realm. And I want retailers to get away from waiting on a company to do an event to learn how to move that product. See, because in back at the turn of the century when United Cigars had 6,000 retail outlets in the US, I guarantee you they weren't doing cigar events. They were 6,000 stores and more stores than we currently have now as far as cigar shops. We got to get away from the event, from the promotions. I was at a store the other day and I saw a motorcycle with the logo of a company on it. And I'm like, this is a Harley Davidson. What are you guys doing with this? Oh, we're giving it away. I'm just like, it's a $30,000 motorcycle. Like, how am I going to compete with that, Jimmie? I can't.
Yeah, that's true.
It,
So
it's
let's
it's
talk a
a
little bit. Let's talk a little bit about you know, what you've been up to since the last time we talked was a few years ago.
Yeah,
Um, uh, so the Boutique Cigar Association has made major inroads over the last few years. You're now, partnering in a way with the PCA. You've been invited now to have your own area.
correct,
Okay, great accomplishment for the boutique world that's doing that. Um, you just recently had a board change on the BCA.
correct.
So where is BCA going now? So now we have this FDA thing kind of on the back burner, right? It's kind of not giving us the headache that
Yes.
it was. Um, what is BCA's mission now as we go forward to work with these small companies?
So I'll get you. I'll give you a quick summary of the first 7, 8 years. I got a call from Glenn Loop in 2016, 17, and he said, "Hey, Gaby, do you have any idea how many small companies there are out there?" I said, "I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50." I said, "I don't know." He goes, "Can you do me a favor? Can you put together a list for us? Because we really need to identify who these small players are so that when we go to Washington, D.C., do you hear the birds in the background or
I
no?"
hear my birds.
Okay, good. I just don't want them. I can't shut them up, so I apologize.
It's all right. Birds are good.
So
They make me happy.
we wanted to put a title on a segment of the industry so that when we go into offices in DC, if you have to in business like in medicine, you have to establish the nomenclature because when the FDA published their deeming guidelines, which was over 500 pages long, they defined a boutique cigar company, a small cigar company, as one that has $1 to $5 million of revenue. And I realized, man, they really don't understand our industry. So the BCA was established to create the nomenclature so that when we go into an office, we can tell them, hey, we represent companies that produce 500,000 or less cigars a year, usually $1 million or less a year, small mom and pop companies. On top of that, we were very blessed to be invited by the PCA and CRA in many of their meetings, from the Small Business Administration to the Center for Tobacco Products to the FDA to the National Academies of Science and Engineering and Medicine. And what's beautiful is that we kind of got a seat at the table because they allowed us to sit there because we finally were organized enough to speak on behalf of small companies. The third thing that we did was we established educational seminars on a monthly level. We,
Okay.
we've had we've had over 20 monthly seminars where every month on a Wednesday night at 8 p.m. we invite somebody who's a specialist in the field. I'll give you an example: a trademark attorney. We would bring a trademark attorney because a lot of boutiques don't trademark their stuff; they're not protected, and if it's just part of the business, you got to do it. A second seminar was on credit card merchant processing,
Oh
how to
my.
run your
Yeah.
business. We're high risk. Do you operate? Are you using Zelle? Are you using Square on you're going to get canceled. Don't use PayPal. You're going to get blocked. They'll seize your funds. So we set up everything from graphic design to box manufacturing to cigar band printing. We've had the best master blenders do educational seminars, and everybody participates to get everybody at a certain level of knowledge so that they can make better cigars. Now, where are we today? The FDA has been kind of dealt with. I want to say dealt with because I really don't know a nicer way to put it. We won the lawsuit. The industry won, thanks to Cigar Association of America, the PCA, CRA, and everybody that put in $1 or fought for this cause. And
Including
the appeal,
protesting in Washington.
Save the Leaf. That's right. It all started at Save the Leaf. We were there.
We started that, man. Ryan Gallimore, me, and some others, man.
That is awesome, man. Yeah, that is incredible. That's good stuff. We need. I need to have a. We need to have a reunion of the original crew.
That would be fun. Like, let's all go up to DC and hang out at a shop.
And take the same signs and reproduce the photo.
I wish I still had the signs. I have it. I have the shirt. I still have the shirt. I'm not mistaken.
Jimmie, I remember, we made a family trip out of it. We're a family business. I took my kids. Oh my God, did we get backlash for having kids on the lawn of the Capitol? I mean, we're a family business, guys. My kids aren't smoking, but we have a company. We're here with the family. But I would love to put my 6'2" son in a stroller again. He's now 6'2", 240 pounds. Let's see if they'll complain about him.
Wow.
Oh, it's incredible. So
how many members do you have in a BCA now?
We're down to 30. I say we're down to 35 because we were up as high as 75 at one point.
What caused the shift?
A lot of people came and left. Some of the brands are no longer in business. Others are just struggling. Many of them are part-timers. But one of the main issues that we had, and I spoke to the staff at PCA about this, the pavilion that we did was phenomenal. We were graced with this amazing blessing to have our own pavilion. And it's really not a new concept because they do it at TPE every year.
That's correct.
It's not, we didn't invent the wheel. It's been invented. It's just PCA's never really. Now, many companies that went to the PCA because two things, the location, all the way in the back of the trade show, many companies didn't really like that. So they're not willing to spend money if they're going to get a bad location.
This is spend more money to get a good location.
Thank you. This is beyond our control, right? But they blame the BCA for, oh, you guys didn't negotiate. The trade show floor is full.
Yeah.
And there's companies 50 years, 60, 70 years old that have, based on their point system, they've got priority. The point system is something that for you to get favorable real estate at the trade show, you've got to put 10 years in and probably spend 50 grand a year to finally get a good spot in the center of the trade show. So I think that should be addressed because it doesn't really allow new young players to really have a lot of traffic at their booth. TPE addresses it. TPE creates these, they have multiple pavilions. So you don't see these, you don't see huge elaborate booths at TPE. So we lost a lot of members because they blamed the PCA board for not negotiating better placement.
Wouldn't you think that, so I get the idea that, you're a big guy and that's okay. You're going to get premium locations, right? But you want to reserve booth space around the big guys, right? So that when you walk the floor, you're going to a JC Newman, you're going to an Altidus, you're going, but around that booth, on that floor plan, are the smaller companies scattered in that area, in those areas, so that when you visit, you might walk past the booth. You're not going all the way in the back. You're not going to a place you don't want to go to. it's
Correct.
everywhere you go for your main buys, there's always going to be
Yes.
the potential drawer into a booth if they did a good job in the booth, they marketed it well, they got good people, and they're bringing you in
Correct.
as you leave the
Correct.
main.
So what you're describing is what I refer to as destination companies, right? So when you take destination companies and you center them all in the main center of the trade show, it kind of leaves the outside parts a bit neglected,
Yeah.
you know. So maybe it should be the reverse, where you look. Let's be real, and there's a lot of great companies out there. Imagine a hot brand that always does well. You can put them on the east side of the parking lot on the other side of the freeway, and people will still go there.
Yeah.
Let's be real, Jimmy, right? I mean, so I think there's got to be a little bit of a, we need to put our egos aside.
It has
There's
to
a,
be a level of inclusivity,
yeah,
to where this show is to promote everything in this industry. And if you're going to do that, you have to have a floor plan that allows people to, they'll choose. I mean, they got their list.
yeah.
They know where they're going, these shops. They're
Now,
hitting all the big guys first. And
so
having a boutique, pavilion is good because then the
yes,
idea is, okay, just come to this pavilion and everything you want there, boutique is going to be there, or a good portion of it, right? Of these hot boutique brands. And
so,
I think that
yeah,
has to, but you've got to keep up to that too, because if I'm a shop owner and I hit that pavilion, I want to see not only some of the standard small
correct,
companies, but I want to see the new companies. And
correct.
they may not even be a member of the BCA yet, maybe because you haven't reached out to
No,
them. Give them that
and
opportunity at
correct, correct.
PCA to say, hey, look, you know what? Come in. And if you do well,
Yes,
well, why don't you buy a membership and get involved with us? Offer the invites to
yes.
them.
And membership. By the way, membership dues have gone down significantly at the BCA. There's we went from 300 a year per company down to 100, because we have found that we don't really want to generate revenue from members. We want to generate revenue from events and festivals that we do. But I don't want to go too fast forward, because there's something that we left out. Many companies that have did not sign up for the pavilion this year was because of poor location. Second reason was because they didn't get a lot of traffic. Now, what is the reason that a company that goes to a trade show does not get a lot of traffic? There's multiple. You look at things like social media. It really is everything in our industry.
Do their due
Between
diligence pre-show
correct,
to get the name out
you,
there to
yes,
shop.
you got to build up the brand a year before. You got to do press releases. You got to meet people, talk to people. You've got to make an introduction. You need to start emailing a customer list 3 to 6 months prior to the trade show, letting them know you're going to be there. At 3 months before the show, you should start taking appointments, because the way the trade show works, and I love Steve Saka because he said it as direct as can be. If you don't have an appointment with me at the PCA, I will not talk to you. And so what happens, you have all these boutiques that are kind of deer in headlights showing up, and they think they're going to be the sensation of the show. But the reality is, all they did was appear as if it's a flea market, and it's not
Right.
that. This is a very organized industry. And what happens is the big companies, and we can't take this too lightly, the big companies that have experience have already indoctrinated the good retailers on how business is done. So what we need to do as new and up and coming brands is learn from how they operate and begin to mimic everything that they do to get traffic to their booth.
So do you have a
And
seminar for that?
we have done seminars back to back. before the trade show, 6 months before the trade show, the first year and the second year, we brought in one of the guys that we brought in was
Are these
head of
paid
one of
seminars or these seminars that,
these are free of charge.
and are
So
they out there on the BCA site recorded so somebody can go and just watch it?
no, so a lot of
BCA member for it?
it's this is purely BCA members. We have not recorded them because what we want to do every year is keep bringing you because there's always updates. You know, there's like right now we're talking about trademarking in Europe. So that's going to be a totally different seminar than the one I think we've dropped the ball on that, Jimmie. And, the BCA is great. We've got 7 board of directors. The one gentleman that left, Chet King, he's opening up a new, he's bringing, his dream is to have his own cigar lounge. And finally, after 50 years, him and his wife are actually making that happen. So he said to us, hey guys, a lot of stuff is going on. We got to build out a humidor, a complete store. They're renovating a whole building that they acquired. So he says, I'm going to step down and I'll join once my store is open again, but I need 6 months to dedicate to this. And so we brought in Chet King, stepped down. He's out in Ohio. I think he's opening his new lounge March 2nd. That's going to be a huge grand opening up there. And Rob Loud, who's a part of Empire Cigar Lounge, is stepping in to fill the void. And so the mission now, since the FDA has been kind of no longer an immediate threat, is we've all agreed that for the BCA to succeed, it's about business. We got to help companies get exposure, do events, do cut and lights. Let's take, for example, a beautiful lounge like Empire. We're talking about doing a boutique evening at Empire Cigar Lounge where 5 companies come out and the owners are there. That's the beauty about boutique cigar companies is the owners show up.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the bigger companies, it's all the sales reps that are there. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's a nice little variation when you get the owner there who's obsessed and passionate about every little thing that he's created. So the agenda moving forward is to help companies grow, help them gain market share, and but as much as advice that we can provide, you still got to bust your ass to make it happen, Jimmie.
But does the BCA do you collect analytics and metrics on the success and or failures of companies and why? Like when you said, do this marketing, right? So I totally agree with you that small companies especially need to start their process a year ahead of time, start getting their name out, start
Yes.
sending things, even if they're not visiting every lounge in America, at least get them on an email list, start keeping people updated on it, keeping the consumers updated on it. And those that follow that model, do you have metrics to say, look what they did? You don't have to use
Correct.
the names, but you could just do an aggregate and say, okay, the ones that follow the model have done year over year growth of X. Okay. The ones that didn't
Correct.
follow the model, some of them went out of business.
So we don't have. I appreciate you being an engineer. I think it's great. We need an engineer on our board. That's something that we haven't looked at as far as creating data sheets or spreadsheets. But when we talk amongst each other and we look at the companies that are up there, and you see them kind of doing this, right? They're kind of leveling up.
Really?
They're working hard. They're doing all the things. Like it's really amazing, man. I think I remember being a organic chemistry tutor in undergrad,
Hated that
which was
subject.
which was a pain in the ass.
I hated
But
that subject.
I had such a difficult time with organic chemistry. But professor said you need to start tutoring it because what you've mastered it when you can teach it.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, think of you need extra money, start tutoring, start at the beginning, go back a year, to the first year of regular chemistry. And what I have found with all the classes that we've had is that there's about 3 to 5 individuals that own boutique cigar companies that have really paid attention and have taken advantage of these courses. And they do change and they do market and they do social media and they do appearances. And uh, it's very, very positive. Now, the boutique segment also has the Road Warrior brand owner, the guy that all he does is visit shops. Now, visiting shops is the best way to land accounts,
Sure.
but it's also a hell of a way to really like. I don't see how you can have balance in your life if you're spending 300 nights a year in a hotel room. God bless them, but I would fall apart. That I can't do that. I'm just wired differently. And in this era of technology, I think we'll do an email blast, for example. Our email list has about 4,000 stores in the US that buy premium cigars. Now, that email list we share with other brand owners. And it's an email list that we've built up over the past 5 to 6 years. We'll do an email blast on a Monday morning, and it's incredible. In the afternoon or Tuesday, the orders start coming in. And it's from all over the country. And not just that, but international retailers begin to, what the international market does, and we're blessed to be in many, many countries with small distributors selling our products. The foreign market, they're watching which brands are doing well in the US.
Right.
That's it. And so the US is where you build your brand. And then a classic example, which is a huge, huge company. I was reading their financials in 2021. Family-owned business that does 1.4 billion a year globally. Okay, and the U.S. market was 50 million. This is a huge cigar company that's a global. It's a very old, established company, and so when you study, we're all students in this industry. You begin to learn that this is where you build the brand. This is your nest egg, right? This is where all the let's look at Levi's jeans. Remember back in the day, the 501s?
I have
They
a pair
were
of 501s.
still, I love it. I love it, Jimmie. You're my guy, man. So when 501 jeans were hot here, everybody in Europe was paying $150 just to get their
When you
hands
could
on a pair.
show up, I had guys in Germany like 20 years ago, all right, when I would visit over there, they would give me their sizes and they'd ask me to bring jeans over to them.
It's
Because
the
what I
same.
paid $20
Yes,
for, you right, they were paying 120 for them in
that's
Germany.
awesome. It's
So
awesome.
I would just put them in my bag, and then show up and say, "Here's your jeans," and then I got like a free meal. I drank free that night. Let's put it that
You
way.
know, you could literally pay for your airfare if you took 10 jeans with you,
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't selling them to him. I was just giving them to him whatever I paid for. But
That's
in
great.
the return
Oh, wow.
favor, taking you going out to dinner, you going over their house for dinner, whatever it is, they reciprocate in a very nice way, and it was quite interesting.
So
Where is Kafie 1901 now? So you recently came out with the sweet tip, which is
yes,
this one right here. Okay.
correct. Yes.
So describe this cigar to the audience, what this one is. This is definitely a sweet tip, old
Yes.
school Cuban style
Yes.
sweet tip.
So there are lots of I look at the industry like segments, okay? And with our core brands, Maduro, Sumatra, Connecticut, San Andres, and the natural, we're tapping into different segments, right? Different consumers. There's a huge sweet tip market out there, and there's staple brands that have been on the market for maybe 30, 40, 50 years. Some of them going back to Honduras, others that are, named very cool, hip, and trendy names by new companies. But
Oh, hold on. Before you go continue
yeah,
that, I just happened to notice some comments because I like to shout out these comments.
yes, sir.
So, Big Fella Mobile Cigar Lounge. Um, Sweet tips are absolutely delicious. Well
That's
done.
awesome. Thank you, man. So that's a great intro. Thanks, guys. I do like to smoke what's out there, and then I do like to create something different. So through simple research that I've done is I learned that the hummingbird is nature's very own cross pollinator that's responsible for the survival of the tobacco plant in the wild. And the reason being is that the butterflies, the tobacco flower is kind of beautiful. It's very long and thin. So where the pollen sits in the tobacco plant is rather deep and butterflies can't reach it. Yes. So then I started thinking about the nectar of the tobacco flower being it's fructose, a five carbon molecule instead of a six carbon molecule like glucose. So then I said, I want to create a sweet tip cigar that focuses on fructose, and a natural sweetener found in the environment in fruits, instead of using artificial sweeteners, which leave a little bit of an aftertaste when you're
There's a
smoking.
pasty note on your mouth.
Bingo, you nailed it. So what we did is we took a premium long filler cigar, and it's made of readily available tobaccos in the Dominican Republic. We did vary the wrapper, different countries, but one thing we did was we put the sweetener not only on the wrapper but also on the binder, so that it would kind of stay there throughout the entire smoke. But it's a clean
Yes, it
sweetness,
is.
and it's not overpowering. It's just kind of there so that it makes the finish more pleasurable.
Yep. I
And
totally agree.
that's what people love about that cigar. Now, we're not a we don't have a sales force. You're looking at it. Jimmie, me and the phone and emails, and Vivian, she does a great job. We're the sales force. So market penetration takes longer. It's hard work. But when our cigars get in the hands of people that understand what it is that we're building, it's the greatest reward to get comments like that. And I want to thank Brian. Those guys are great. They have a wonderful business, and they've been very supportive to us. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and I think there's an area too in this industry that these mobile cigar lounges. I love these guys. I do annual shows with them. I love how they set things up. Everyone's a little different,
yeah,
but they're solving a niche problem, right? I mean, they'll take the cigars to major events and show up and anywhere you go for an event. I don't care what if you go for art, okay, you go for music, you go for bike week, Daytona 500, horse races. I
yes,
don't care
yes.
what it is. There's going to be a percentage of people that like smoking cigars. Period.
Listen, it's as
Just
easy
so.
as a wedding. Just imagine a wedding, an outdoor wedding somewhere, or there. I was
Well, I'll interject on that. The wedding, so like when my niece got married, my niece called me and says, "Hey, can you get me some cigars for the wedding?" And I said, "Yeah." Now my brother had passed away just a year or so earlier, and I said, "I'm gonna do one better. I'm gonna get one made." So I went back to my guys at that down in Texas that made the Boston Jimmie cigar, and I made one
okay.
called the Brother Tom, and I got 100 of them made, and I was giving them out to weddings. The problem was, um, they would have to leave the wedding venue, go outside, and you know what happens.
Correct.
Now it's you got an hour, you have an
Yeah,
hour experience, maybe 45 minutes, but you're away from the
the
party.
the party. Yeah, I
And
understand.
that kind of dulls stuff down. Now, like my son, there's smoking area he's gonna have. I know we're gonna have cigars there too. But again, the same thing. You disappear. Your wife's go, Where'd you go? We were dancing. You were outside smoking
Correct,
cigars.
correct.
Stop it. Stop it.
And
They tell you, right?
every wedding I've ever been to where there have been cigars, it happens. You're 100% right. It happens. Or you'll have one guy that'll grab five of them and stuff them in his
Yeah, it's that too, right? Yeah, exactly. Or the guy that
But
knows nothing about cigars and he's smoking a cigar and he smokes like one third of it at best and puts it out. And I was like,
correct,
"Hmm,
correct.
you did what?"
But as we're talking, um, I can't help but say, the PCA's been around for 90 years. They're the staple to the industry. The BCA, the Boutique Cigar Association, was created to kind of solve problems in the smaller segment of the industry. Now, we now live in an era where we have multiple cigar consultants, right? If you want to start a brand, these guys are great. I've seen press releases recently of guys building businesses around helping people establish their brands. 10 years ago, that didn't really exist.
Right.
So the pains that the BCA has are kind of being addressed in the free markets of the industry. People are discovering, look, we can build a business around helping people. Not only, if you look at Claudio Scroi, for example, he's a master blender. He used to be owner of Mombacho Cigars.
Okay, yep.
And after his tenure with Mombacho, he started a consulting company where he would help people develop blends and then get into packaging and cigar bands and everything to help you get to the finished product. And that's at a boutique level. I think it's great. So now we have multiple people that are helping. There's guys sitting out there that have money and want to hire a consultant to do things right. Because if you don't have a consultant or somebody that has made mistakes in the past, you're going to pay gravely for those mistakes.
That's right.
Nothing worse than introducing a brand to market that didn't do well initially. Because to revive that bad experience is like pulling teeth.
Nope. You got a brand new brand, shows up at a shop. People smoke it, they don't like it. They see it, they're not coming back to that. You have to twist their arm hard to get them try it again.
Correct, correct.
You know, and again, you can have a couple of good hits in your
Yeah,
initial portfolio. You can miss. You're allowed to miss, okay? But again, like I said earlier, you got to recover from that real fast because your core brand is everybody likes. This one, yeah,
yeah, correct,
you kind of
correct.
miss the target on that one. The next one, it's like, oh, great again, right? So you learn your lesson, and that just takes
Yeah,
experience. And like you said, consultants, they have the experience to be able to say they'll be able to connect you with the right factory that can do what you want to
correct,
do.
correct,
They
correct,
have the connections to the box manufacturers to
correct,
connect you to that to the band guys. The whole concept of how you socially promote it. Okay, what you can and can't do in social media,
correct,
right?
correct.
You know, like I watch some of these people, like suddenly you see people putting out cigars for sale on social media in,
Oh,
in cryptic ways, which we all know
oh,
telling them, right?
yeah, yeah.
They're gonna get whacked.
They are,
Okay?
they are.
They're gonna get take that. It's only a matter of time before somebody discovers what they're doing and they're gonna take them down. All right. And let's be real, there are people in this industry or who were in this industry who might have been blackballed from this industry that got something to grind on. Now watch out for those too. They exist in every industry. We're
They
not,
do.
unique in that. And they can come after you. They can just, say, hey, you know what? Send an email to such and such and say, hey, look what they're doing. So
Wow,
you gotta be on
wow.
top of your game
Yeah,
across the board. And like you said, there's so many moving parts, right? You got to be your own lawyer, you got to be your own marketing manager, you got to be your own
correct,
blender, you got to be your own traveling salesman.
correct.
And you're going to do this while you're working 40 hours a week? I
Now
struggled 40 hours a week. I would work 60 hours a week and run Stogie Press, and it was a struggle. Believe me, for 12 years or 11 years, I struggled with that because every night I had to come out and do work at night because I had no time during the day. I
Wow.
reviewed the cigar during the day, got the notes and the photos while I was on calls on business, but I couldn't sit down and concentrate on
Yeah.
writing anything until after like 7, 8 o'clock at night. And then you're sitting at 11, 11:30 when it's all said and done after you got to do all the work to put the article out. And you're like, okay, I'm freaking tired now.
Yeah. Correct.
Now I'm not
Correct.
tired anymore.
You bring up a hell of a point. Let's bring up the some of the challenges of boutiques, right? We all know how the industry admires the seed to shelf companies, right? They
Right.
call them vertically integrated, right?
Vertically integrated
Right.
brand. Right.
So now you take the boutiques, and what happens is, let's say brand A is outsourcing their cigar at this factory. So they're outsourcing the cigar, then they're outsourcing the warehousing and distribution. So that all cuts into your profits.
Oh, yeah.
And yesterday we ran into Mike Rosales from Roma Craft, and
Oh, yeah.
it was really cool because my son Gabriel was there. He's 16, big boy. And for some reason, him and Mike just started like, "Hey man, hey kid, come here. Let me tell you what the cigar industry's like." And he just broke it down to him. And I'm so grateful for Mike because it shows that he cares. He sees this family. My son's at the event. He's by the coffee machine, and Mike started telling him, "Look, every trip that you take, you're spending money that you technically don't have. So what you're doing is every trip is 1,000 here, 1,000 there, 1,000 here. In a month, it adds up 3, 4, 5,000 dollars. So now you got to sell X amount to try to recover what you've already spent. You're not even profitable yet, and to build a company. So when you get one guy, Mike and Skip, brilliant. They got two guys. Each one of them has their duties. They built the dream company, right? Roma Craft is a dream. I'll call them a boutique cigar company. Even they're at 1.1 million or more. I don't know where they're at now, but
Yeah.
my hat's off. Yeah, my hat's off to them. And they're stubborn. They're stubborn. It's this way, no other way. They won't skimp. They won't cut corners. They take their time. They do things right. You got to be stubborn to build a good company. And Skip is the king of stubborn, and I love him for that. Uh, but the fact that he took the time to talk to my son and kind of wake him up as to, look, your dad's been busting his ass for the past 10 years with Vivian. This is what you can expect if you want to be in the business moving forward. Because you know what happens? My son sees our name on a billboard, right? And they think it's fancy and it's glamorous and, oh my God, we're famous. No, we're not. We have to turn a profit, Jimmie.
you you become, yeah, this is one of these strange industries that even the smallest of brands have a level of notoriety amongst family, friends, and local shops as a minimum, and hopefully more than that eventually, where they go in and they're like they're kind of the rock star at the moment. All right.
Yeah.
Myself included. I mean, I show up at stuff and I'm like humbled when somebody comes over and knows who I am. All right.
Very cool.
And I was at an event once when somebody actually wanted me to sign their box of cigars they bought from another brand. And I'm just
That's
like,
incredible.
this is
Very
not my
cool.
cigars. He goes, yeah, okay, I just signed a box. I get people to sign boxes. I said, okay, I'll sign a box.
But I think that's out of respect for your
Yeah,
dedication as
but it's
yeah.
very humbling when that happens. All right. But then you get to the real rock star stage, right? You get a guy like Steve Saka shows up. It's a sellout
Uh-huh.
crowd, right? He comes on my show, and by the end of the first week run on the show on Facebook, there's like 1,000 people that have looked at
That's
the video.
incredible, man.
Okay, they
Hopefully we'll
just
get 100. Hopefully
you know,
we'll get 100,
I think
Jimmie.
you're getting more than that because I'm looking at the numbers right now, and they've hovered as high as a live as 11 or 12, and we're
That's
still at
great,
a
man.
solid 7, which
Thank
means
you
people are
guys.
coming in and out. Nobody sits through these shows.
Yeah,
Most people don't sit through a whole hour and a half show. They'll come back and revisit it maybe, but you get those
very
hits,
cool.
right?
No, man, it's a blessing. People want to get to know the person behind the brand, what drives them, what inspires
Yeah,
them. My greatest thing, I hate doing things alone. This is one thing that I want everyone to understand is I don't like to do things alone. So the BCA has been wind under my wings, and we've been very blessed that we about 3 years ago I was burnt out, Jimmie. Dealing with Honduras, the factory, the problems that we had. The BCA was really taking its toll on me, and Armin Caprellian stepped up, and he saw that I was in pain, and he stepped up and he said, "Gaby, let me take over. Let me help you out." And Dr. Gara Buldukian stepped in, and we had a lot of great people. Everybody that's on the board, from Alan Rouleau, who's a custom tailor up in
I
Boston.
know him. I had him on my show.
Wonderful. He is as eccentric as they get, and he sees what we don't see because he's
Right.
outside the industry, and I
Yeah.
love that. And he's been on many boards of his, uh, let's say, industry tailors associations and things like that. So he's got a lot of experience that we didn't have. And Chet King was instrumental. He helped us have two successful boutique cigar festivals in Indiana. We've had a lot of great people, um, all working for free to make things happen. So when I say I don't like to work alone, I like to surround myself with people that their passion is contagious and it keeps us on our toes. It's a blessing. Greg Free
That's the
came
magic
in.
of any, but that's the magic of any
Yeah,
business. Okay.
yeah.
You run a business like, my life and career, I didn't, other than Stogie Press, I wasn't running a business, but I was running parts of a business. All
Okay.
right. I was, major project managers and program managers and engineering and stuff and running teams. And it's that teamwork that you have to have. Everybody's got a job to do. Everybody has to understand their job. Everybody's got to report on their job, but not reporting to the micromanagement level. Just tell me when you had a problem. Okay.
Okay.
My job is to solve your problem. Okay. My job
Wow.
is to say when you had a component and that component you needed to integrate that to another component. Yet we had to make sure that both guys that are building different components that interface was thoroughly understood. All right. Because if he can't provide the signal that this one needs to do what they got to go do, the system doesn't work. Right. So we would manage all of that, but it takes a whole team of people to do these things, all the way down to
Correct. Correct.
analysts. And they didn't all work for me. Right. But I knew the ecosystem of the
Okay.
business. And I knew that if you were designing this, okay, who did you talk to the reliability guys? Because I want to know when that thing's going to fail. Because when I know when that thing's going to fail, I want you to talk to the maintainability guys. Because
Yes.
now you're going to have to figure out where you're going to put that component. If that's a low reliable component, it's going to get replaced every couple of years. You better make it accessible to be replaced and not take half the vehicle apart to get the spark plug out, for instance. Right?
Everything you're talking about, if we can apply it to the boutique segment. So right now we're having conversations with the new board. And Rob Loud came by, he's at Empire Cigar on Brickell Avenue. They have, I think, a store in Fort Lauderdale as well.
Mhm.
They're cream of the crop as far as lounges go. I mean, beautiful high-end establishments. We have the owners of Cutter's Cigars in Atlanta being in our meetings, and they have an equally high-end lounge in Atlanta. And these retailers, they want to support mom and pop brands, but one question they're asking is, have you all established a certain criteria for the quality of cigars that your members are producing? Ah, interesting. So now comes the accountability factor, right? So we're literally stuck in the mud right now. The conversation is, how do we establish maybe a tasting panel
Quality
and
control.
quality control so that people are putting out
Well,
good
quality
products?
assurance. Maybe it's more quality assurance to say, okay, yes, this meets the criteria
Yeah, but
for.
we don't want to do it like the last thing Davidoff does is criticize Padron. No, we don't want to be but we want to have a tasting room where we bring in people like you to review cigars, to evaluate them, to say, hey, you need to work on this. This is great. And put them through a vetting process so that the ultimate goal is to get a family of brands in the BCA. And then we can now begin to build the sales force to represent those brands. That's the ultimate goal. And that's the biggest challenge that we have. And I'll tell you why I say challenge. I know a lot of sales reps, and I saw a whole bunch of them yesterday. They're all the successful independent brokers are repping successful brands that have been on the market for, let's say, 20 plus years. And it's a great job because a lot of what they do is they take orders. They're not really trying to sell a product. They're taking orders of a product that's already in demand. So that's the hurdle that we're now trying to approach and get to that point where let's put together a sales force. Let's have brokers in every region of the country. Let's have them rep our 5 brands, 6 brands, 7 brands that are ready to go to commerce in that scale. And then let's have the owners begin to do tours where they spend 3 to 4 days with each broker. So every month, that rep might have 4 owners flying in to travel and visit accounts and help open. I think there's a lot of potential in that. And I think that's how small players can help each other kind of get to the next level. So that's where our focus is now as BCA member companies, is to help gain market share in a way that's positive
As
for
long
brick and
as it's
mortar.
a fair sharing, right? And it's things that
Correct.
what ends up happening is you start filling up a portfolio of boutique cigars in the brands and the membership. So let's say you've got 30. So now you do this thing, you end up having a rep out there, the sales force out in the
Yeah.
Midwest, and they bring out five out of those 30 people.
Okay.
Now, when you do something, say in the Southeast, you can't bring the same 5 guys with you.
Correct.
Got to be a different 5 and a different 5 so that in the end, if you got 30 members, all 30 members get an exposure to a region maybe at least once a year on this.
Yes. Yes.
Because otherwise you know how that works. Then people will be like, okay, we have favoritism going on, we got
Yes.
nepotism going on, and oh, by the way, I'm not getting the exposure that this brand has been
Correct.
getting.
Correct. Correct.
They're always being sold, okay, in every region, and I'm not there.
Correct.
So why am I
So
paying for it?
So there's several layers to that dilemma that I have identified. Layer number one is, are you doing this full time or part time? The business. The
Right.
second layer is, how's your portfolio? Do you have 2 blends or do you have 10? The third layer is, what's your inventory status like?
Can you
You know,
fulfill?
yeah. And the fourth layer, which we've kind of begun doing, so we've been doing a slow introduction of boutiques around the country by participating in festivals that already exist. There's a huge festival in Minnesota where a few of us go out there, and we've already begun planting seeds so that people become aware of who we are. We did the Buffalo Cigar Festival last year. It was phenomenal. The boutiques did great. 5 companies did phenomenal. So as we
You
begin to
have
plant,
presence at Smokinos?
no, no, we don't. I so
That's
my
an that's a
company
growing event year over
so
year.
so my company has, we do business with Best Cigar Prices, but Smokinos, we didn't go last year. Hopefully, I'm going to talk to them this week, see if we can participate. I know La Aurora is participating. I think it would be great if we could be there as well. It's time we're there. But we got to start penetrating these festivals, not just doing our own festivals, but across the country. Look, we were invited to do the Newport Beach Festival with that Cigar and Spirits magazine hosts.
They're doing one, they're doing one in May. I'm going to be at it in May in New York on Long Island.
Really?
Yeah, Cigar Spirits, they're doing one in the same one that because I went to the one in Newport because it was during a friend's wedding, was had it on the same venue that they had that, and I just accidentally noticed it. And they're like, "Oh, Jimmie, man, you can come in." So
That's
can I bring a
awesome.
couple of people with me from the wedding? So I brought the groom and his father,
That's
and we
great.
walk into this place, and they're looking at me like,
This
how
guy's
do
the
you
man.
how do you know about this? And how are you getting in? You know,
That is
but they contacted me about the one in New York, and I'm going up to see my son before his wedding. So I said, look, I'm going to come up a week beforehand. You're solo. I'm going to take you to that one, and then hopefully we're going to Smoking Hose on the Saturday.
no, that's phenomenal. I think if we could establish this year 5 festivals, um, Rocky Mountain Cigar Festival is a big one. It's not an easy festival. It's expensive to participate.
Yes, it
So
is.
there are barriers to entry, and but everyone has their sights on the future, and we got to plug away. And look, if I was if I were to erase the BCA, not that I have the power, but let's say it didn't exist, I would be on the road much more. I think my company would be doing a lot better in the US. We'd have a larger footprint. But one of the things that I'm being very patient, because when you have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, and those are such critical years for, my son took his SATs on Saturday, and, he finished his SAT, came home, changed, and then we went to Neptune. So, I like being present for all those critical moments, but
You
I
have to
know,
be.
yeah,
It's
thank you. You have to be.
You have to be.
There
Okay, I'm
is,
sorry. You have to be in your child's life when they're growing up. I mean, I can't tell you how many cheerleading competitions I went to, how many
yeah,
wrestling tournaments I went to. Okay, baseball,
yeah, you have to be.
the stuff that went on, and soccer
I know.
games just consumed your life, and you would try. And these things were like sometimes they were local, and other times it's like,
Yeah,
okay, we got to hop a plane to Texas for a cheerleading
correct,
competition
correct.
where you get to stand there for like 15, not even 15, like it's a 3 minute routine or a 5 minute routine, right? And you got to, and that's it, and they're judged on this, and you're
Yeah,
like there the
yeah,
whole
I know.
weekend, and
I
but you got
know.
to do it. You have to do
When
these things.
2 weeks ago I was in Pennsylvania, we flew in on a Wednesday to have our BCA summit to talk about the future. And my daughter's honor roll ceremony was that morning. So my wife and I went to the honor roll. We had a good time. She got her certificates. Everybody's happy. She went back to class. And then my wife took me to the airport. So there's things that you can't miss.
Right.
And I like being present, even if it's to help them solve problems. My son, I'm going to tell you something, and I don't usually talk about my kids because it's like a roll of the dice how your kids are going to do, but we try to have discipline. And my son was doing horrible in math, horrible. He just, I think I would blame the teacher. Okay, the teacher was retiring, and he just didn't have his heart in it, and he was just couldn't wait to finish the semester and retire. So my son was suffering in his pre-calculus class, and I went and found the best tutor. I went old school. Hey, what do? You find a tutor. I like literally went nuts. We're going to find the best tutor. $50 an hour. I don't care. You're only taking pre-calculus once, right? And his he took a PSAT, got a perfect score on the math.
Nice.
But see, yes, Jimmie, but
Nice.
this is the kind of stuff that you can't put a price tag on. This is let's get them. I want them to do better than I did.
We always want our children to do better than we have done.
Yeah,
And if anything
correct.
I could say about my life, my children have done better than I have. Okay. The last thing that I worry about is when I'm off this planet, they don't need any of my money.
That's
Okay.
wonderful. God bless
None.
you.
If I die broke, it's not going to hurt them at all.
That's great.
Okay. So
I I respect and admire you for that.
you push them, but you
Yeah,
you encourage what they want to do, whatever it is.
correct,
My son
correct.
wanted to be a scientist, right? He's a scientist, right? He's a little dismayed with science right now, I'll be honest with you. The way things are going, he's a little dismayed with the whole process. He's also dismayed at the fact that true scientists that work on, they work on grants, okay, whether it be grants from the government, grants from foreign governments,
Sure.
grants from other places, from industry. They live off grants to do this science, to
Yes.
discover things, right? And they get paid crap.
Wow.
I mean, my son,
Well,
5 year
don't
postdoc.
maybe you shouldn't get into details.
Well, I'll just
Respect your
tell you.
son's privacy. Yeah.
No, this is fact. He told me, he goes, this
Okay.
is fact. Okay. 5 year postdoc, he makes $72,000 a year in Long Island.
Wow. Oh my God.
Okay. And I
That's
said to him that that's ridiculous. He goes, yeah, but that's the scale, Dad. It's based on the grants. The grants dictate how much you pay the researchers.
you're talking
So
about
they don't
somebody
pay
that
the
has
researchers anywhere near. And so the point I was going to make is I always wanted my son to be an engineer. Okay.
Mhm.
Because he had everything to go with it. He was great in math and science. It would have been a great
Yes.
engineer. He creative, all of that stuff. Very musical too, also adds to the equation. He decided science. So I encouraged, okay, science, let's go. Where do you want to go? University of Miami? Go. I'm broke.
Wow.
I'm going to send you there. Right. He ended up getting a ride at Vanderbilt. Right. Was able to get his doctorate there. Okay. It didn't cost him a dime. Great. Okay. But in hindsight, you look at it all and you're like, going, hmm. But he's also marrying a beautiful
Yeah. Wonderful.
anesthesiologist,
That'll bring balance to his
you know,
finances.
and
It will.
she loves him so much that she just tells him, you just go do your science. The same thing I would have told my son.
So,
Follow your passion. If that's your passion to do research, just do it. Okay.
so
She'll
I,
cover she covers the rest of the world. Okay. And they have such a great time together because they have this perfect balance in their relationship of respect for what each other does. And
so
that I think that
I'm
comes from
yeah,
the family upbringings.
absolutely. And you remind me of the old me when I was a resident here in Miami and I was getting paid $18,000 a year and it wasn't enough. I couldn't live on that. So I was moonlighting in dictating medical charts. I was doing discharge summaries and we were getting paid $20 a chart. I would do 5 to 10 charts an evening after work just to make extra money.
Right.
What I learned was that academic institutions are really falling behind, kind of like school teachers. School teachers don't get paid enough.
Yeah.
Academic institutions, universities, they also don't pay enough. And
Right.
so what I did is I sat
Unless
back
you're
and I
the
said,
sports director or the football coach, then you get paid a lot.
yeah, correct. Yeah, it's true. What I learned, Jimmie, and is I did a study of resident salaries in major cities across the US. And I realized that what they were paying us was half as much as other major cities like LA, New York, Chicago, things like that. And I submitted a letter to the hospital administrator letting them know that, because the federal government subsidizes the academic institution for training us. And they were getting subsidized over $120,000 per resident, and we were getting paid 18,000. So we wrote some letters, a few of residents, and we went to meet with the hospital administrator, and we got our salary up to 36,000. So there's ways to really assess. Okay, are we getting paid? Whatever his salary is, he's got to look at what are other people.
Let me
Yeah.
tell you where he works. Okay, the institution he works at, which is one of the most prestigious research institutes in the world, they subsidize extras. They actually pay their postdocs more money.
Okay.
Okay, the average postdoc in science gets paid even less than that. They get making
Oh,
60,000 a year.
wow.
All
Wow.
right.
So
And
yeah.
this is just it to me, it's sad, especially if you're doing cutting edge research. I mean, we could talk about quack research and whatever, whether you really do it or whether or it's politically driven research all day long. But when you're talking about things like, finding cures or
Yeah,
treatments for Alzheimer's,
yeah,
autism, Parkinson's, cancer,
correct.
child cancer, okay, these things
Yeah,
you got to do. So you got to do this stuff,
correct,
okay?
correct.
And
Well,
who's going to do it if you're not going to pay them money? And the passion only goes so far.
great doctors usually make less money, but they get compensated in so many different ways, blessings that money can't buy. So hopefully your son is going down that path.
He does. He gets a little dismayed about it right now because of the way things are, but I think he'll come through and he'll be fine. He has these long,
Yeah.
deep conversations with me, and I feel for it because it's not just him, it's others. I know other people that, are in the same place he is, not same institute, but they're basically the
Hmm.
same line. And they got the same complaints. My son-in-law is a history teacher, all right? And they don't pay it. These guys make no money. None.
I know.
Okay. Now my daughter's a lawyer, so she's the bread earner. If it wasn't
Balance.
my
Yeah.
daughter, they wouldn't live in the house they live in today. Okay, you can't live like that on these types of salaries. And teachers are the backbone
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
America when it comes to building children up.
Correct.
And good teachers.
They spend more time with our kids than we do.
Yeah,
Yeah, they do.
absolutely.
They do. My wife's a teacher. That's why,
Yeah,
I hear whenever she complains, and it's very difficult. Miami's one of the lowest paying cities in America for teachers, and it's
crazy.
very difficult. It just doesn't
It's
make any sense.
nuts.
And there's no shortage of funding here, so there's a disconnect. But I want to mention one thing because these conversations that we're having, one thing I've noticed in our industry, Jimmie, the past 5 years after the pandemic is every brick and mortar shop, their overhead went up 30-40%,
Hmm.
from rent to utilities to just everything is 30-40% more expensive, if
That's
not
right.
double. I'm not going to exaggerate, right? So all the businesses out there that are month to month and trying to figure out, the guys that do really well in this business or gals are the ones that own, and we all know those shops. They bought the building, and now they don't have to deal with the fluctuating rents.
Right.
I've known stores that were paying 1,500 a month. Now they're at almost 4,000. How do you? So what they end up doing is they lay off people, and now they're drowning trying to manage a store, trying to keep up.
Right. And the customer
So
experience has gone down, and
yeah,
those ashtrays aren't getting emptied all the time, and
correct,
it's
correct,
and just the
yes,
little things. The bathroom's not clean,
correct,
because
correct.
you don't have the staff to do it. If they have a bar and it's a busy night, they don't have enough bartenders to serve you, so you're waiting 20 minutes for a drink. And it's like, the experience says,
Yeah, correct, correct.
nice
When
place,
you
but
the really
service not.
the high end cigar lounges that I've been to, they do a phenomenal job at catering to the customer. And at those places, I noticed that the customers that they're more inclined to spend.
Yes.
If you provide good customer service, if you walk into the humidor, like in Miami, we have stores, lounges where they put the cash register in the humidor. And the reason
Right.
is you're killing two birds with one stone. You're there as a tobacconist to help the customer buy what they're going to enjoy. And you ring them up so that now they go have it. They could, it's great to get money out of the enjoyment factor. You don't want to sit down in a lounge, uh, you know, have two cigars and then, wait for the girl to come with a tab. No, pay for the cigars and then go have drinks at the bar. And
Right.
it really enhances the customer experience. But it's really not an easy business. You have to be at the top of your game. And the guys like Chet King, he is a student of how to build a great brick and mortar shop. He's worked as a manager of Over the Rhine Cigars for about 5 years. He got the experience, he has the confidence, and he's executing now, I think, a great plan. And I think he's going to be one of the top cigar lounges in the state of Ohio pretty soon. But because he is 100% into what he's doing, he's committed. And this is his dream. So I think any business, if you start a business just to make side money and you're not taking care of the business, it's not going to work.
Not going to work.
Doesn't. You got to be all in. And this is the biggest factor I've noticed in the boutique segment is there comes a point, and I know finances can be restricting and not everybody's rich. I'm not rich at all, but the numbers make sense. You got to sit down and do numbers. And the biggest mistake people make in this segment, I don't know if we're at the tail end of this broadcast. Yeah,
we are.
I do want to leave everyone with this. The biggest mistake boutiques make is they're focused on only financing the first run of cigars. So when you're an unknown brand and you're visiting shops, half the shops are going to say, hey, can you give me net 30? So you're going to say net 30 because you want the shelf space, right? You're going to go with it. You're going to take a risk. You see that they got good brands on the shelf. You want to be in the store. But what happened, that net 30 turns to 60 and then they're staggered. So the money that you put into the first run is literally tied up now as credit.
That's correct.
So by the time you're out of cigars, you need to finance the second run. And you still haven't been paid on the first run. So for anybody that wants to get into the boutique cigar space, the secret is you need to be able to finance 3 runs. The first run, let's say it's 1,000 boxes. The second run, you want to have 1,500 boxes, and the third run should be 2,000 boxes. And you should have the capital to finance that entire first. Exactly. And then you can really focus and not be stressed that people aren't paying on time because they're not going to pay on time.
No, they're not.
If you can get over that hump, then but you got to be in full time. You can't part time it.
No,
so do it full time and finance 3 runs. That's the best advice I can give anybody.
All right. Well, Gaby, we went almost 2 hours, which is more than usual.
Awesome.
But always a wealth of information. We talked about a lot of good things. If you are a boutique brand out there and you don't know about the BCA, contact Gaby Kafie or anybody on the BCA. You can go to bca.org.
BoutiqueCigarAssociation.com.
BoutiqueCigarAssociation.com. So you can go there. You can you check it out, what they do. You're going to be at PCA, yes?
Yeah, we'll be there, correct.
There's the booth this year?
I actually don't
It's
know.
a long corridor.
Yeah, it is. I haven't looked at the map. All I know is that I'm booking appointments now.
Good.
So we've got people flying in from all over Malaysia, Dubai. We're booking appointments. This is where you get your orders. If you book appointments, you'll get orders.
All right. Well, I'll definitely see you at PCA this year.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Looking forward to it, along with the other 600,000 people that are coming in for the French Quarter Festival. So let's all have fun because it's going to be a mob-related area.
That's great. Jimmie, thank you for having me on.
Book your dinners now because I have a feeling that some of the best places are going to get booked up real fast, and not just from cigar people.
Jimmie, thank you very much for having me on. It's been a pleasure. You're a gentleman.
Anytime.
Thank you, sir. And God bless you and your family and everything you guys do.
Likewise.
Thank you, sir.
Keep it up. Keep the faith. Keep pushing.
Amen.
So that's it, folks. That's our show tonight.